What's going on, people? This is the Black Trekker. Thank you for taking time out your morning, afternoon, or evening to sit in with me for a few ticks as I discuss something from a video that I've seen in Star Trek recently. Now, just to clarify, I've seen this video numerous times, but I was thinking about it as I was watching it this evening, and I was thinking to myself, what would the viewers of this channel do in this situation? So, the name of this episode is Pen Pals. And this episode is taking place during season 2, episode 15. And what occurs is that the Enterprise D has entered a new star system. And the star system is vast, comprised of dozens of different planets spread across a large area of space. And what's happening with these planets is that they're geologically unstable. They have flourishing ecosystems, and then within a matter of weeks or years, they tend to turn into volcanic wastelands. And they have no idea why this has occurred. So with that being said, as the Enterprise being an exploration ship, it's a mystery that needs to be solved. Now, in a previous episode, in season 2, Wesley Crusher helped a gentleman named the Traveler. The Traveler was an alien who had the ability to use warp technology to accelerate to unbelievable speeds that were unfathomable or unattained by any species in the galaxy. And it was the power of thought. At the end of that episode, the Traveler said to Captain Picard, watch out for this one. This one needs guidance. He needs to be mentored because he's equivalent to a Mozart. He's a savant. And I'm paraphrasing with the word savant. But nonetheless, he said he needs to be guided but not told about his potential, especially for the mother. Now, Picard, listening to the Traveler and realizing that the Traveler comes from a race of beings that are technologically way more advanced than the Federation is, and also because they don't look at time like a linear flat plane. They look at it in multiple avenues and multiple variables. So with that being said, Picard took his insight into Wesley to heart. Now in this episode, what he's trying to do is he's convened with the senior staff to give Wesley Crusher some more responsibility. Now, Picard could put a scientific team from officers on the ship to figure out what's going on. But this is of a lower priority because they're going to be in this system for probably potentially 2 to 3 months. So with that being said, it's ample time for Wesley Crusher to figure it out. And if not, then they can assign a more seasoned and more experienced geological team. So what happens is with that being said, Picard assigns it to Wesley. Now, Wesley doesn't have any command experience, although Wesley is an acting ensign. And Wesley, he's not sure about himself. And if you've never been in a command position, then you would feel similar to Wesley Crusher. Now, with that being said, this is not the main issue. This is not the main subject. The main subject is that eventually they come across a planet. Now, Data is listening for artificial structures, artificial signals. And he picks up an artificial signals. And it's coming from a planet. And it's the 4th planet in the solar system. And so, with that being said, the artificial signal is coming from a sentient life form. Sentient life form's name is Sojinka. And Sojinka is, for all intents and purposes, a little girl. But the people of that particular planet, they have radio wave frequency that can communicate and broadcast outward and also can receive as long as it's close enough. So what happens is that Commander Data starts to have a dialogue with this Shozinka. And Shozinka is telling Commander Data about what's going on in her home with her family and also with her planet. Now, she doesn't understand all of the intricacies of what's going on with the planet at large, but nonetheless, she has the ability to see. She has the ability to observe the rumbling and the earthquakes and also the temperature changes and the fluctuations with the animal life forms on the planet. So she knows that something isn't right. And her parents are worried, as any child could see in their parents' eyes. So what does Data do? He goes to his captain. And he tells his captain about the situation that's going on with Shozinka. And Data is an android. Data doesn't have feelings. So he can't properly articulate what he should be feeling because he doesn't have any. But he can look at it from a logical perspective and see that something's going on with that planet. It might be similar to what's going on with the planets in the rest of the system. And this might be our first opportunity to see an actual sentient life form that lives in this solar system that's experiencing it. So what Picard says is, I want you to convene the senior staff so we can talk about this. But then also I want you to break off communications with this life form. Now, was that cold-blooded? Was that cold-blooded on Picard's behalf to tell Data to stop talking to this life form? And then also he reduced Shozinka to a life form instead of a person. Now, Captain Picard said, so you want me to break the Prime Directive? And so I'm going to say this is the problem with the Prime Directive. Because the Prime Directive is an absolute. It's a rule for the Federation. And all Federation captains have to abide by the Prime Directive. You can walk the line. You can skirt the line just a little bit. But you can't break the Prime Directive. Now, why is that? Because the Prime Directive is like the absolute number one ethical standard of the Federation. This separates the Federation from the bad guys. So what happens is that the senior staff is convened and everybody gives their perspective on what should be done in this situation. Because from what they've observed is that the technology of Shozinka's planet is significantly less advanced. I'm talking about, it's like the telegraph technology. It's like early 19th century technology. I mean, nowhere near as advanced. Although they do have a few things like their doors that they can touch with their hands and the doors disappear. Now that technology wasn't really in depth explained whatsoever. But for the most part, their technology is really antiquated and primitive. But that doesn't discount the fact that Shozinka is a representative of that planet. And Data is like, listen, isn't this a cry for help? Isn't it our obligation to intervene because we have an official representative of said planet? And Picard is like, no, it's just a girl. It's just a child. We can't intervene just on her behalf. It has to be an official request from the government or the leadership of that said planet. And Counselor Troy, being empathic and being empathetic, is like, yeah, we understand where you're coming from. And a surprising ally of Data. Surprising, because I've said this before, Dr. Pulaski had a negative feeling towards Data. She did not like artificial intelligence. And she did not like androids, even though Commander Data was the only android in Starfleet. She did not like artificial intelligence. So with that being said, she was really supportive of Data in the sense that she said, Data, you did a good thing. You helped this girl and her family out. Now, of course, Worf was like, nope, this ain't none of our business. This breaks the Prime Directive. He was basically in agreement with Captain Picard. Riker was like, yeah, I understand. This is a touchy situation. But at the same time, we have to be neutral because we don't want to impact the development of this culture. And so with that being said, and Geordi was kind of like skirting the I agree and I disagree. And Captain Picard wanted Data to just let it go. They're going to find out what's going on with the planet, but they're not going to interfere. They're going to let the planet take its natural course. And if that means that everybody on the planet dies, then so be it. But they're not going to break the Prime Directive, which I feel is unfortunate and kind of heartless, but that's just my thought. What would you have done in that predicament if you would have been in command? Or rather, if you would have just been a lieutenant commander like Data, would you have broke the prime directive or would you have obeyed your captain? So what Data does is what he does is something uncharacteristic of his programming and also his typical responsibility in Starfleet. Because Data has been in Starfleet for decades. I mean, he's been in Starfleet for over 20 years at this particular point. So Data is a seasoned, trained Starfleet graduate and officer. So this is completely out of the realm. So what does Data do? He continues to have conversations with Shozinka. And he continues to see that she's scared and she's nervous and she's fearful. Now, again, Data can't feel feelings, but Data empathizes for whatever reason. Maybe Data had an emotion chip that no one knew, but he still empathized. And what did Data do when they finally came to the planet and discovered that it was a geological instability and that her planet was suffering? Data beamed down to the planet. He broke regulations. He interfered. Now, my question is this. How does an android who does not have feelings empathize with a distressing child? Because that's what Shozinka was, as a child. I mean, it didn't go into the depth of how old she was, but she couldn't have been no more than 12 years old. He empathizes with her plight, her situation, beams down there. And then what he does is he takes her back to the ship. And guess what she gets to see that nobody else on her planet gets to see? She gets to see her homeworld for the very first time. Now, of course, Captain Picard is livid about this because Data not only broke a direct order, but he also exposed the ship to an unknown alien. Now, thankfully, the Federation has technology to be able to screen out pathogens and also bacteria that would be harmful. So Shozinka didn't have any harmful bacteria whatsoever. But what happened is that Captain Picard was like, okay, I want you to sedate the alien. Again, messed up. Sedate the alien after you show the alien her homeworld. So they sedate the Shozinka. And again, Data is before Captain Picard. Captain Picard wants to reprimand him. Commander Riker wants to reprimand him as well. But then Data hits him in the head with something. Sir, we are out here to explore strange new worlds. We are out here to create friendships with alien life forms. But aren't we out here too to help those that can't help themselves? We have all this technology. We have all of this superior knowledge, but we can't help these people? Even if they're not aware that we help them? We're just going to let them die? And that right there puts Picard in a moral conundrum. Like, well, I mean, I don't want to break the prime directive, but at the same time, that is kind of cold-blooded. Like, for real. You don't want to help her because that, and I mean, if you look at the prime directive, realistically speaking, the reason why they don't want to interfere is because they feel that their technology could lead to war, or their technology could lead to them being perceived in some kind of deitic or deity type of godlike position. Which I got it, but I mean, all truth, they already have technology. They don't have warp drive, which is another fundamental reason why a lot of cultures are not necessarily in the Federation, because they have to have faster than light technology. And it's obvious that Shozinka's people don't have FTL technology. They don't have that. They don't have subspace technology. They don't have that. But nonetheless, they have a problem. Now, Wesley's team was able to figure out that Shozinka's planet has these crystals that resonate and they vibrate very, very violently. And that's what happens that creates them to have this geological instability. And thankfully, Dr. Pulaski reassures Data again that he did a good thing. You know, this future, she'll never know what happened, but you'll know because you'll never forget her. Because, you know, he has the data banks and the memory capacities to be able to remember for decades, centuries. So what do? They use their main deflector array and they make the actual resonance crystals that are in their planet's ground inert so they don't vibrate anymore. Wesley's team was able to find out why. He was able to find out the frequency to be able to prevent them from resonating. And then what was created? The planet stops, everything is calm, and then Data is instructed to go and beam the child back to the planet. Now, Data also does something that kind of skirts the line of the Prime Directive. He leaves a piece of alien technology for Shozenka, which is some kind of like, it looks like an egg and it changes colors based off of mood. And so he leaves that with her. And that right there was one of the first instances of Data showing human emotion. How does an android, rather, this is the question, how does an android have more feelings and more human empathy than the crew? I mean, the only person that was on his side was his adversary, Dr. Pulaski. Everybody else was like, look, it's messed up, I know, but we got to follow the Prime Directive. So my question to you is this. Would you have been a supporter of Data and helping Shozinka and her people, the planet, to be healed? Or would you have the mindset of Captain Picard initially by saying, no, we can't get involved. This violates the Prime Directive. We have to be completely neutral in this. We have to see what happens, and then we can go to the next planet, observe, catalog, and be like, okay, well, this is what happened in this particular system. I'll just let you know, I would have broke the Prime Directive. And I would have had to deal with whatever fallout that would have been because of that. You know, you just can't let that situation ride. Prime Directive or not. But anyway, that's just my thoughts. In the comments section, leave yours. Again, I would appreciate if you check out this episode. It's called Pen Pals, and it's in Season 2, Episode 15. It's a great episode. Hopefully, I didn't spoil too much of it for you, but nonetheless, it's an exciting episode, and it really gives some lessons. One thing about Star Trek, like I said, it gives lessons. With everything being said, live long and prosper.